My name is Phoebe Parker-Shames. I'm a PhD student at UC Berkeley studying the ecological outcomes of cannabis legalization, and I'll be the moderator for today. Also, just a heads up, I have a cat who has decided that now is the moment that she would really like to be stepping on my keyboard, and so you might also meet her. But thank all of you for joining us. And today we're going to talk about best management practices for cannabis and the environment. I'm going to start us off with a brief overview of BMPs and cannabis, and then introduce our panelists. So I wanted to start us off with what are best management practices. You also hear me refer to them as BMPs. So these are originally developed to reduce water pollution. BMPs are activities, methods, or ways to manage land that research has demonstrated to reduce negative environmental impact. BMPs can range from recommendations to actual regulated requirements. Today, in this panel, we're broadly talking about BMPs with cannabis agriculture as actions that farmers can take to grow in ways that reduce negative effects to the land, water, air, and living community around them. So why are BMPs for cannabis important? Most forms of agriculture have decades of research to support best management practices. Shade-grown coffee is an excellent example of an industry that has a huge amount of science that has gone into certifications and regulations designed to create sustainable practices. However, cannabis, because it has a history of being illegal for decades, it's missing a lot of this research. And indeed, because it's still federally illegal, there continue to be barriers to fund and carry out research on the crop. This means that farmers, land managers, and regulators don't have systematic research to inform specific best management practices. And now many cannabis farmers themselves have already developed techniques that are well tailored for both profitability and ecological sustainability, but bridging the gap between farmers and regulators remains challenging. And at the same time, not all farmers are using or are aware of best management practices. So there's a heightened level of concern about the potential environmental impact of cannabis, and therefore a need to disseminate some of these guidelines. However, many farmers in the legal industry are already under immense pressure just to comply with existing regulation, while the black market is still ongoing and by its very nature, unregulatable. So we have sort of two main challenges with best management practices in cannabis. The first is how to inform and design best management practices that are informed by research as well as existing farmer knowledge, and then how to implement them successfully. So our guests today are grappling with these questions themselves and working to ensure that cannabis producers in California are able to farm cannabis in ways that uphold the environment. So a little bit about our panelists today. We have Patty Madigan. Patty provides a local public agency perspective as a senior conservation programs manager at the Mendocino County Resource Conservation District. Patty has been involved in the publishing of Mendocino County RCD's watershed best management practices for cannabis growers and other rural gardeners, and has been part of California's Resource Conservation District Cannabis Project since 2018. She helped develop the GRASS-C, Growing Responsibly and Socially Sustainable Cannabis Self-Assessment Tool. We also joining with us today, Margaret Mantor. Margaret is from the CDFW. So Margaret began working for the California Department of Fish and Wildlife 7 years ago after earning her PhD in geography from UC Davis, where she studied ground squirrel communication. Her focus at CDFW is on environmental permitting for commercial cannabis cultivation, including lake and streambed alteration agreements. She also enjoys working on outreach and education related to cannabis cultivation impacts to fish and wildlife. And finally, we have Bam, or Bamboo. Bam is a legacy farmer in Salinas, where he works on a breeding program and nursery. He balances his farming, breeding, and extraction work with cannabis activism. He is interested in the intersection of legacy grower knowledge and the regulated industry. For those of you that may have found the link for this talk on social media, please note that I'm sorry to say that Kristen Nevedal had to cancel at the last minute, but we're really excited to have this conversation with all of you.